Today we're making Christmas tree napkins. I am so excited. I cannot wait to share this process with you, my friends. Woohoo! Perfect for your dining room table. Today it is Christmas in July and we are making Christmas tree napkins. So I have my pattern out here. I've gotten lots of fabrics ready for my Christmas tree napkins. So hit that subscribe button because I want you along with me. We are making beautiful Christmas holiday fun. So we're getting out our fabrics to audition to make our napkins, and we've got our pattern here, which is 20 inches by 8 inches. So we're going to be able to get 2 out of each Christmas fat quarter, 2 meaning half of 2. It's going to take a yard to make 2 of the complete napkins because we need 1 on the front, 1 on the back, and then we need a stem. And we're going to use our 2 inch by 2.5 inch inside out, right side out for our tree trunk. So we are excited. Let's get going. All right, so how do we cut out our Christmas tree napkins and how do we go from there? So we are going to go ahead and bring our pattern. I've got a 1/4 yard and you can see here it's off just a little bit. And I'm bringing it back because we don't want the selvage in the Christmas tree. And we're going to line it up. I've got the fabric inside out. And with it inside out, I can draw better on it. And you want to grab yourself a magic marker or a pencil and go ahead and make your outline on your paper. And then we're going to take some pens because I have 2 layers of this at the same time. And I have my lines going around here. They're faint. Lines going around here. I kind of lose it up top, so let me look at it up top again. And if you can't see because of the multicolors of your fabric, you can place that right back on and use a pen or even a marker and help make your line. So that shows up very, very well. And let's grab some pins. We're going to put pins in because we're going to cut 2 layers at the same time. And why? Well, because I can, and I like to do as many of them at a time that I can. And we're just going to take a sharp pair of scissors and cut these out. And using our scissors, we're just going to follow that line. I want to cut directly on that line so that we have exact measurements so the top matches the bottom, because we're going to cut it out of different colors, and each side of our napkin I like to be a different color. So probably on the back of these we could use blue, we could use green, whatever you want your colors to be and whatever you have. So again, we have our pens here, but we have a bright, beautiful inside that we're going to use. Now, I thought we could get one out of the back of this, but I'm now thinking I probably can't. Let's, maybe, hold on, maybe. Okay, so out of 1/4 yard of fabric, you can get 3 tops. Now, again, that's only half of your Christmas napkin. So when you're pricing these, I have seen these priced all over the place. But when you're pricing them, you have to know you are using 1/4 yard to make half of 3. So if we have 3/4 yard, we are making half a yard would make 3. So we're making 6 out of 2 half yards. So 6 napkins can be made out of a half a yard. And I don't need pins in this. 6 can be made out of 1 full yard, half a yard of each fabric. I'm going to type this down, so read what I write, not what I say, right? Okay, and then we just cut on our pin mark, and we are ready to... Now, these oftentimes I will take and I will cut out in my lap while the rest of the household is watching TV, and that way I don't miss out. But these are excellent craft ideas for craft markets and craft fairs, church bazaars, and any kind of place you have homemade goods that you can sell. Might even want to look at the local farmers market. Usually the farmers market in your town or in your county will allow you to sell handmade gifts there, and that's usually very reasonable priced. So that is another idea you might want to have. And we're going to talk about, Wendy, how much should I sell these for? And that's the whole point of knowing exactly how much you're using at a time to calculate its cost. And I'm just cutting out some more. Now this, I actually have the fabric laid out to where I'm cutting 4 at one time. Again, remember, what I like to do is I'm doing for gifts and I'm doing for craft fairs. And although we only use 1 napkin, we might have more company. So I like cutting out as many as I can at one time. And that way I am maximizing my time and effort for cutting them out. So Wendy, I really need a pattern. What am I supposed to do? Well, my friends, we said that this was 20 inches across, and then take your mark at 8 inches, and then we're going to oval it over and oval it over. So you have a circle that has a 20-inch by 8-inch bow. So you'd have to add on another part to make this a full circle. We're not using a half a circle. We're using 20 inches by 8 inches. Okay, now we're taking 2 of our fabrics. We're putting them like sides together and pinning around the circular part that we're going to stitch around now. Today we are making these beautiful Christmas tree napkins. And these are absolutely wonderful for your dinner festive table. They open up into the half square, the half circle, or just less than the half circle. So let's get to it. I'm excited. Let's have fun. And we're going to have some beige trunks and some green trunks to our Christmas trees. So we've cut out 2.5-inch strip of each of these. Actually, these are leftover 2.5-inch strips from another project that worked perfectly here. And we're going to cut them down into about a 5-inch strip to make our tree trunks. And this is what it's going to look like. And we're taking 1 of our 2.5 by about 5.5. Any rough figure is good. You might want a smaller Christmas tree trunk or a larger one. And again, the end of it is going to be stuffed inside of our tree so we can still adjust sides. And we are putting it right sides together, wrong sides on the outside, folding it over, sewing it down both sides. And now we're going to turn it right sides out. Maybe use a stiletto or a tip of our scissors to make the ends come out. But if you do a little nip on the corner here like I'm doing, it makes it so much easier to turn right side out. And voila, we almost have our tree trunk. And turning it right side out. Let me pop my corners out for you. And what do you know? I get to use my seam ripper for some other purpose. And it has a plastic head on it, so it makes it just the right size for helping here. I'm going to finger press these seams. And I'm probably going to do a whole bunch of these, pop them over on the ironing board, give them a quick press before we put them in. Again, I'm making a whole lot of these, but I do want to show you how it's done before I get too carried away with myself. Okay, and we're going to put it on our Christmas tree round. And I've got Sylvia here with me. And Sylvia, where is our placement?
Approximately 2.5 inches over. And I said approximately. There you go. You can use that as your measurement because this is going to be a seam, so it's going to end up on the outside less than 2.5. You scoot it in as much as you want. We know this is where we want it, right here at the edge of that little piece of black.
Great measurement.
Stick it in.
And we're putting it right sides in because, again, we have to turn our napkin right side out. So having it right side in, and you can stick this out as far as you want. You want a shorter tree trunk, go ahead and stick it out. Let it lap over an inch. Whatever you feel like. These are your napkins and you're the creator. Just make sure they stick out some so they sew well. And now we're going to stick a pin in that and we'll do our sewing.
When you're pinning, you always put the point toward the outside. So as you run up, your one hand is holding, the other hand can pull the pin out of the way as you go.
Oh, great tip. Great tip.
And we...
Okay, so we are going to start where, Sylvia?
Okay, we're going to start approximately here, and we're going to sew all the way around across your tree trunk. If you've got children in the family, the tree trunk might get a lot of roughage, so go twice over the tree trunk.
Excellent.
Seam back to your corner and then up, making sure you leave the opening large enough to pull it all to the outside.
Perfect. And we're going over our tree trunk twice.
Leaving opening large enough to turn it.
Excellent. So that's a good 3+ inches.
Correct.
Okay, so now we're cutting off the tips in both sides. And this is where we can use pinking shears, or it looks like you're giving it a little nip every inch.
Roughly an inch.
So if you don't have pinking shears, just nip it. This is a very, very wide curve, so every inch should be sufficient.
Now for the turning.
And we're going to turn it right side out. And I like to put my finger all the way at the furthest edge, turn that first, and just pull the rest out. So what do you say, Sylvia? We're going to do 100 of these, 200 of these?
It's all possible. These go very fast.
Sell very fast. They are a great seller at craft markets. And hang out, because I'm going to write out all the numbers so you have the measurements and you can put a decent price on these based on the cost of your materials. I'm going to spell it all out for you, so keep watching for that. And hit that subscribe button and give me a comment. I want to know what your Christmas craft is. What is a craft that you enjoy making or plan to make for this coming Christmas? Are you celebrating Christmas in July by making a couple of Christmas items or Hanukkah items, Hanukkah gifts at this time? I want to know. And here we're just finger pressing it so those seams lay down. So when we bring it over to the ironing board, it presses up very nicely. Okay, so this is our Christmas tree in the works. And we are going to go ahead and put on our green and red thread in both the bobbins and the top stitch before we do our top stitches. So we might go ahead and make a couple more of these. Be back soon. And now we're going to go ahead and iron our tree trunks. And if you have the corners pointed out, pushed out, it is a quick, easy process. Okay. And we are doing stacks and stacks of these, so I just wanted to show you another one that is in the process, and I am so loving this. Woohoo! And we're going to sew around our tree trunks. Okay, and on this one, we're going to go around the outside of this, and then we'll switch to a red color and go around our Christmas tree. But if we do an entire stack of them and stitch them together, that will save us changing the thread, and it's just a different way to process. And as you see, we're chain stitching these, so we're just going to keep doing one after another, after another, after another. And sewing the trunk of the Christmas napkin we just made. And we lock stitch. And our trunk is done with a lock stitch. Sweet. Trim all your threads. And now we're going to go ahead and press our Christmas tree that we've turned right side out. And we'll take it back and change our thread to red and stitch it all the way around. And of course our opening, we want to make sure that we've pressed that to where it's very, very easy and simple to sew. And we're going to change our thread to red. Now we could keep the bobbin green because we're doing green on the back of our tree, but we kind of thought red would be nice on both sides. So we're putting a red bobbin and a red spool, and then we'll get back to sewing around her. And we're doing a scant quarter or a heavy eighth of a seam allowance going around our Christmas tree napkin. And again, these go on your dinner table. These go out for company. These are made to be used, abused, washed, and put out again. So these are a permanent fixture for your holiday celebrations. And I think they're festive and fun, so I like putting them out. Probably starting with your Christmas decorations. Go ahead and get them out and use them. Now, these, of course, could be used in blues and whites for your Hanukkah bush, if you are into that. But I think it's fun and festive, and we could do a tree in any color. If you do a tree decoration for different seasons, make these in different seasons too. I think that's awesome. And I think I told you seam allowance. I meant top stitch. It's this stitch that we're going around is the stitch that we're using is a scant quarter or a heavy eighth, however you phrase it. But that way we're catching in both of our, seam allowance from the top, and we're stitching it down. So what I'm stitching through right now, or Sylvia is stitching through right now, is 4 layers of fabric. And you know, when I get this close to having a project done, I get really excited and really giddy. And usually, yes, I get giddy around the 50th, not the 1st. But we are going to take this over to the ironing board. We're going to press in our seams to make our Christmas tree layout. And I am just so excited. Actually, we'll stitch the first line first. And I'll try to show you the measurements on that. I'll get the ruler and we'll let you know how to start your fold, and then you adjust it as needed to make it a perfect tree outline. And we are done just like that. We're back where we began. So lock in that stitch, and I'll meet you at the ironing board. All right, so we have our pattern and we have our tree that we just made. And if we look at our pattern, we need to remember this is 20 inches coming across here. So we're going to take our ruler, and from the top of our tree, opposite our stem, from the top of our tree, we are going to measure down approximately 5 inches. So if you take a look at our pattern, depending upon your seam allowance, it's going to be roughly 5 inches. So you're probably looking at about 4 3/4 to 5 inches is going to be where you're going to need your first fold. Again, that first fold line is going to depend upon where, how much seam allowance you gave it in the original sewing before we turned it right side out. So before we fold anything, we have measured down approximately that 4 3/4, whatever mark works for you. And then we've put a pin, and this is our hypothetical line where we start folding it to see how the Christmas tree lays perfectly together. Talking out my costs of making Christmas napkins, I can get 2 sides out of a fat quarter, or I can get 3 sides out of a 1/4 yard. So to save the most money, since I'm making more than one, and so will you, we are using full yard cuts. If I buy my yardage of fabric on sale, I can get it usually for about $8 a yard on sale. So 2 yards is $16. I can make 12 from 2 yards, since I need 2 sides to make each napkin. And we're not talking about the stems yet, but $16 divided by 12, I have $1.30 cost in each, just with fabric, not including my time, my effort, and my friends. Paying for a booth and setting up a booth costs money too. But again, it depends upon your area. You can get up to $5 each for these, but in my economic area, it's $3 each that I sell these for. So if my stems are scraps, and or I use a 2.5 inch strip for my stems, and the cost of thread, wear and tear on the machine, I'm going to round that $1.30 up to $1.50 per napkin. So I'm looking at the cost alone of being $1.50 per napkin. If I sell my napkins at $3 each, I sell them at $12 for 4. Or I like giving discounts and I like encouraging people to give gifts. So I will save someone $2 on 2 sets of 4. So they can pick out 8 napkins for just $22. I hope this helps. And once we have our folds in, we're just going to put our hot iron on the cotton setting with steam. Make sure you've got water in there. And we're just going to press it up and down so it locks in some of those corner seams. All right, so how did we do this? Oh my goodness. Again, it's going to measure differently depending upon your seam allowance. But roughly we have the first fold at 2 1/4, and then we have it at 5, and then we go all the way up to our top. And thank you so much for joining us today, as I have thoroughly enjoyed making our Christmas tree napkin. And now we are going to set out to make a couple 50, couple 100 of these for our upcoming Christmas craft. Now, like I said, how much do I charge?